The night was a shroud of darkness, a tapestry of starless sky stretching infinitely above. James had always been drawn to late-night drives. The solitude of the empty road gave him a sense of freedom that the chaos of everyday life couldn't provide. Tonight, however, would be different. James, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair, sat in his aging sedan. Its headlights pierced the obsidian night as he navigated a desolate highway. The hum of the engine was his only companion, the rhythmic sound a comforting presence. He had no particular destination in mind, just the road and the ever-extending horizon. The rhythmic swish-swish of the wipers was hypnotic, lulling him into a state of tranquility. But as the minutes turned into hours, a creeping unease began to gnaw at him. James glanced at the dashboard clock, its numbers blinking in silent accusation. It read 3:33 a.m. He had been driving for hours, and yet there was no sign of civilization, no hint of the outside world. It was as though the highway had become a never-ending ribbon of asphalt, an eternal stretch of road leading to nowhere. James, muttering to himself,
"This can't be right. I should have reached something by now."
He pressed harder on the gas pedal, the engine's roar growing louder, but the road remained unyielding, an unbroken expanse of black. As the hours passed, fatigue began to claw at James, its weight settling on his eyelids. He knew he needed rest, but there was no rest stop in sight, no exit, no signs indicating the way back to civilization. Just when James felt his resolve weakening, a faint glimmer in the distance caught his attention. It was a single lamppost, standing like a solitary sentinel on the side of the road.
Finally, some sign of life.
He steered the car toward the lamppost, the yellow glow growing brighter with each passing second. As he drew closer, he noticed a small building nestled in the lamplight's halo. It was a roadside diner, a beacon of warmth and comfort amidst the desolation. James parked his car and entered the diner, its bell above the door jingling as he stepped inside. The interior was a throwback to a bygone era, with red vinyl booths, checkered floors, and a jukebox playing softly in the corner.
Good evening, hon. Take a seat anywhere you like. What can I get you?
Coffee, black, and maybe something to eat. I've been driving for hours, and I could use a break.
The waitress nodded and poured a steaming cup of coffee before disappearing into the kitchen. James took a sip of the hot, bitter brew, its warmth spreading through him, chasing away the fatigue that had plagued him for hours. As he looked around, he couldn't help but notice the other patrons in the diner. They were a peculiar group, a mix of people from different eras, their clothing and hairstyles betraying a sense of timelessness. "You must be new here." James was startled.
Yeah, I just stumbled upon this place. How long have you been here?
Time doesn't work the same way here, friend. Some of us have been here longer than we can remember. James's unease returned, amplified by the cryptic responses of the diner's patrons. He wanted to ask more questions, to understand where he was and how to leave, but before he could, the waitress returned with a plate of food.
Here you go, hon. Our special tonight, just for you.
Thanks, but I think I should be going now. Can you tell me how to get back to the highway?
The waitress smiled, her eyes devoid of any emotion, as though she had answered this question countless times before.
Just keep driving down the road, honey. You'll find your way.
James nodded, paid for his coffee and meal, and left the diner. The lamplight had dimmed, casting long, eerie shadows on the highway. He got back in his car, the engine purring to life, and continued down the road, determined to put the strange encounter behind him. But no matter how far he drove, the highway remained endless, the same stretch of road unfolding endlessly before him. Panic gnawed at James's insides as he realized that he was trapped in an unending loop, a nightmarish cycle of driving down a highway that led to nowhere. Hours turned into days, and James's mind began to unravel. He would see the same lamppost, the same diner, and the same patrons over and over again, each encounter feeling like a cruel mockery of his futile attempts to escape.
This can't be real. There has to be a way out.
He tried turning back, reversing his course, but the highway only extended in the opposite direction, as unyielding as ever. One night, as the clock on his dashboard blinked at 3:33 a.m. once again, James couldn't take it anymore. He swerved his car off the road, crashing through the guardrail and plummeting into the abyss below. As the car tumbled down into the darkness, James felt a sense of relief, a fleeting moment of escape from the never-ending highway. But just before impact, everything went black. When James opened his eyes, he was back on the highway, unharmed, as though the crash had never happened. The same lamppost, the same diner, and the same patrons surrounded him. You can't escape, friend. This highway is your eternity.
No, this can't be real. There has to be a way out.
His screams fell on deaf ears as the highway stretched endlessly before him. He had become a prisoner of the endless highway, a hapless traveler condemned to drive its never-ending expanse for all eternity. The unexpected twist was that the highway itself was a malevolent entity, a trap for lost souls seeking refuge in the darkness of the night. It offered the illusion of escape, but only led them deeper into its endless abyss. As James continued to drive, his sanity slipped further and further away, and the highway claimed yet another lost soul in its unending journey into the void. Days turned into weeks, and James's memories of the outside world began to fade, replaced by the relentless monotony of the highway. The diner, the lamppost, the cryptic patrons, they all blurred together into a surreal nightmare that had no end. One fateful night, as the clock once again read 3:33 a.m., James noticed a subtle change. The highway, which had always been straight and unbroken, now began to curve and twist, like a serpent leading him into the unknown. James whispered to himself,
This is different. Maybe this is the way out.
He followed the winding road, hope and desperation guiding his every turn. The darkness seemed to thicken, and the stars above vanished, replaced by an oppressive void. Just when James thought he had found his escape, the road abruptly ended in a blinding flash of light. He slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt, his heart pounding in his chest. Before him stood a colossal, towering gate, an ornate wrought-iron monstrosity that seemed to reach into the heavens. It was adorned with intricate patterns and adorned with grotesque gargoyles, their stone eyes fixed on him.
What is this place?
As he stepped out of his car, the gate slowly creaked open, revealing a world beyond. It was a realm of surreal landscapes, distorted reality, and shifting dimensions. Time itself seemed to have no meaning here. James cautiously ventured through the gate, leaving his car behind. He felt as though he had entered a different dimension, a place where the laws of physics and logic had no sway. The path ahead was a labyrinth of surreal sights and eerie sounds. Trees whispered secrets, and shadows danced with a malevolent intent. James felt as though he was being watched, not by the diner's enigmatic patrons, but by something far older, far more ancient. As he journeyed deeper into this bizarre realm, he encountered strange creatures that defied description, twisted amalgamations of flesh and bone, ethereal beings that seemed to exist between dimensions, and phantoms that whispered in languages he could not understand. With each step, James's sense of reality unraveled further. He no longer knew if he was awake or trapped in a never-ending nightmare. Time seemed to lose all meaning, and he couldn't remember how long he had been wandering this bizarre landscape. Eventually, James reached a clearing in the surreal landscape, and before him stood an immense obsidian tower that seemed to stretch into infinity. Its surface was adorned with cryptic symbols and pulsated with an otherworldly energy.
What is this place? What do you want from me?
As if in response, the tower's surface began to shift and ripple, forming a doorway of swirling darkness. James hesitated for a moment but knew there was no turning back. He stepped through the portal and entered the tower. Inside, he found himself in a colossal chamber, its walls adorned with grotesque tapestries that depicted scenes from his own life, moments of joy, sorrow, and regret. It was as though the tower knew his every thought, every memory. You are the key, James. The highway feeds on lost souls, trapping them in its endless expanse. But you have ventured beyond its limits, and in doing so, you have opened the way to this realm. The entity explained that the highway was a malevolent force, a sentient being that devoured lost souls and trapped them in an endless cycle of despair. James, by reaching this realm, had disrupted its feeding grounds and revealed a path to its source of power. You have a choice, James. You can continue to wander this surreal landscape for all eternity, or you can confront the highway itself and put an end to its reign of torment. James's mind whirled with confusion, fear, and determination. He had come too far to turn back now, and he couldn't allow others to suffer the same fate he had endured.
I'll confront the highway. I'll end its torment.
The entity nodded, and in an instant, James found himself back on the endless highway, but this time he was not alone. Surrounding him were the lost souls, the same patrons from the diner, and others who had fallen victim to the highway's trap. Together, they formed a formidable procession, their collective willpower a beacon of resistance against the highway's malevolence. As they advanced, the highway itself began to shift and contort, its once unyielding expanse twisting in pain. You are the key, James. Lead them to the heart of the highway, and together, you can break its hold. With newfound determination, James led the procession, their steps echoing like a war drum on the asphalt. The highway fought back, conjuring illusions and distortions, but the collective will of the lost souls was a force to be reckoned with. Hours turned into days, and the battle between the lost souls and the highway raged on. It was a battle of willpower and determination, a struggle for freedom against an ancient malevolence. Finally, as the first light of dawn broke on the horizon, the highway let out a deafening shriek, its asphalt fissuring and crumbling. In an explosion of light and energy, it shattered into a million pieces, releasing the trapped souls from their eternal torment. You have done it, James. You have broken the highway's curse. As the last remnants of the highway vanished, James and the liberated souls found themselves standing in a desolate but real world. It was the highway's original path, now restored to its natural state. We're finally free. With tears in their eyes, the lost souls dispersed, their spirits at long last finding peace. James was alone once more, but this time he knew the way home. He got into his car and drove back down the highway, the endless expanse now a familiar and ordinary road. The clock on his dashboard read 3:33 a.m., but it held no power over him anymore. As he approached the exit for his hometown, he couldn't help but glance in his rearview mirror. There, in the distance, he saw the faint silhouette of a lamppost, standing like a solitary sentinel on the side of the road. The unexpected twist was that James had not only escaped the endless highway, but had also liberated the lost souls trapped within it. His journey, once a nightmare, had become a testament to the power of resilience and the capacity of the human spirit to overcome even the most malevolent of forces. And as he drove back to the world he thought he had lost, he knew that he would forever carry the memory of that surreal journey in the depths of his soul. The night hung heavy with an eerie stillness, the moon a pale specter in the sky. A group of friends, consisting of Jake, Mike, Sarah, and Lisa, had always found solace in late-night drives through the quiet countryside. It was their way of escaping the pressures of everyday life, a ritual that had bonded them since high school. Tonight, it was Jake's turn to drive, his black SUV cutting through the darkness as they navigated the winding roads that snaked through the rural landscape. Laughter and conversation filled the car as they reminisced about old times.
Remember that time we camped out in the woods and thought we saw a ghost?
Oh, come on, Mike. It was just a raccoon in the bushes.
Yeah, but it did scare the living daylights out of us.
As they continued down the desolate road, a sense of nostalgia washed over them. They were no longer carefree teenagers, but adults burdened with responsibilities and the weight of the real world.
I miss those days when the biggest worry we had was passing a test or getting grounded for staying out too late.
Their laughter was interrupted by a strange sensation, a subtle, unexplainable shift in the atmosphere. It was as if the world around them had suddenly become charged with an otherworldly energy.
Do you guys feel that? It's like the air just got weird.
Yeah, I feel it too. Maybe we're just tired. It's late after all.
But the feeling persisted, growing more intense with each passing mile. It was as though an invisible force was drawing them deeper into the darkness. As they rounded a bend in the road, Lisa gasped, her eyes fixed on something in the distance.
Look, there's a road up ahead that I've never seen before.
Sure enough, there was an unfamiliar road branching off from the one they were on. It seemed to appear out of nowhere, a dark, winding path leading into the unknown.
That's strange. I've driven this route countless times, and I've never seen that road before.
Despite their unease, curiosity got the best of them, and Jake turned onto the mysterious road. It was narrow and surrounded by thick woods, the branches of trees casting eerie shadows in the moonlight.
This doesn't feel right, guys. We should turn back.
I second that. This road gives me the creeps.
But as Jake tried to turn the SUV around, a blinding flash of light filled the cabin and the car jerked to a halt. The engine died, and the car's headlights dimmed, leaving them in near darkness.
What just happened? Did we hit something?
I don't think so. It was like a burst of energy or something.
As they tried to restart the car, they heard a strange, disembodied whispering, a chorus of faint voices that seemed to come from all around them. Stay, stay, follow the road.
Did you guys hear that? What the hell is going on?
The voices grew louder and more insistent, urging them to continue down the mysterious road. Fear and confusion gripped them, but they felt compelled to obey. Reluctantly, Jake turned the car back onto the road and they continued their journey into the unknown. The whispering voices grew louder, their words becoming more distinct. Stay, stay, follow the road, find the truth. Hours passed, and the road seemed to stretch on endlessly, the dark woods closing in around them. They had no sense of time or direction, only the relentless urge to keep moving forward.
I don't know how much longer we can keep this up. We need to find a way out of here.
But the road showed no signs of ending, and the whispering voices continued to echo in their ears. They were trapped in a nightmarish loop, unable to escape the relentless pull of the road. As they drove, they began to notice strange, surreal phenomena. The trees lining the road seemed to twist and contort, their branches forming grotesque shapes that reached out for them. The moon overhead pulsated with an unnatural light, casting eerie, shifting shadows on the ground.
This can't be real. None of this makes any sense.
I think we're in a nightmare, and we can't wake up.
As the night wore on, they realized that they were no longer alone on the road. Figures began to appear on the side of the road, their faces obscured by darkness. They watched the group with empty, soulless eyes.
Who are they? What do they want?
The figures made no move to approach, but their presence filled the air with a palpable sense of dread. The whispering voices continued to urge them forward. Stay, follow the road, find the truth. Jake's grip on the steering wheel tightened as he tried to make sense of their predicament. He was determined to find a way out, to break free from the relentless grip of the road.
We can't give in to this. We have to find a way to escape, to find the truth, and end this nightmare.
With renewed determination, they pressed on, searching for any sign of an exit or a clue that could unravel the mystery of the vanishing road. But the road seemed to go on forever, its path twisting and turning in a chaotic maze.
I can't take it anymore. We have to do something.
As if in response to her plea, the whispering voices grew louder, their words now a deafening chant that reverberated in their minds. Stay, stay, follow the road, find the truth. The voices seemed to merge into a single relentless command, drowning out all other thoughts. It was as though the road itself was alive, a malevolent force that demanded their obedience.
We have to find the truth, whatever that means. Maybe that's the way out.
With a newfound sense of urgency, they followed the road as it led them deeper into the heart of the nightmarish landscape. The figures on the side of the road watched them with empty eyes, their presence growing more oppressive with each passing moment. Finally, they reached a clearing in the woods, and there, in the center, stood a colossal obsidian monolith, a towering structure adorned with cryptic symbols and pulsating with otherworldly energy.
This is it. This is the truth we've been searching for.
As they approached the monolith, they felt a surge of power emanating from it, a force that threatened to overwhelm them. The whispering voices grew more intense, their words now a cacophonous roar in their ears. Stay, stay, follow the road, find the truth, face the truth. With trepidation, they reached out and touched the monolith, and at that moment they were flooded with a rush of memories and revelations. They saw glimpses of their own lives, their fears, their regrets, and their deepest desires.
I understand now. This road, this nightmare, it's all a reflection of our inner demons.
We've been running from our truths, and this road forced us to confront them.
But what do we do now? How do we escape?
As if in answer to their question, the monolith began to change, its surface shifting and morphing. It formed a doorway of swirling darkness, beckoning them to enter.
We face our truths, all of them, and we embrace them. Only then can we find our way out of this nightmare.
With resolve in their hearts, they stepped through the portal, each one confronting their inner demons and accepting their truths. The road, the figures, and the whispering voices faded into nothingness, leaving them in a place of blinding light. When their vision cleared, they found themselves back in Jake's SUV, parked by the side of the road where their journey had begun. The night had given way to the first light of dawn, and the world seemed to have returned to normal.
It's over. We're back.
And we're stronger for it.
We faced our fears, and we found our way out.
Jake started the car, and they drove away from the vanishing road, leaving the nightmare behind. They had not only escaped the relentless grip of the road, but had also found a deeper understanding of themselves and their friendships. As they headed home, they couldn't help but wonder if the vanishing road had been a supernatural force or a manifestation of their subconscious fears. The unexpected twist was that the road had served as a mirror, forcing them to confront their inner truths and fears, ultimately leading them to a place of self-acceptance and growth. The road had vanished, but the lessons they had learned would stay with them forever.
The night was heavy with darkness, an inky shroud that cloaked the world in obscurity. Emily and Daniel, a young couple deeply in love, found solace in late-night drives through the quiet countryside. Their old, reliable sedan cut through the silence as they navigated winding roads beneath a sky dotted with stars. Emily, her raven-black hair cascading like a waterfall down her back, looked at Daniel with a smile that could light up the night.
I love these late-night drives with you, Daniel. It's like we have the whole world to ourselves.
Me too, Em. It's our little escape from reality.
Their fingers interlocked, and they cruised down a deserted road. The moonlight filtered through the leaves of towering trees, casting eerie, shifting shadows on the pavement. It was a night like any other until it wasn't. As they rounded a bend in the road, Emily gasped. There, standing on the shoulder, was a woman dressed in a flowing white gown. Her pallid skin glowed in the moonlight, and her long dark hair obscured her face.
Did you see that, Daniel?
See what?
Emily turned to look at the spot where the woman had been, but there was no sign of her. It was as though she had vanished into thin air.
I swear, there was a woman there, standing on the side of the road.
Maybe you imagined it, Em. It's easy to see things in the dark.
But Emily couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. They continued their drive, the unease lingering in the air like a dark cloud. A few miles down the road, Emily spotted the woman again, this time standing in the middle of the road, her back to the approaching car.
Daniel, stop the car. There's someone in the road.
Daniel slammed on the brakes, bringing the car to a screeching halt just inches from the woman. She stood motionless, her dark hair still obscuring her face.
What the hell is she doing? Is she trying to get herself killed?
Emily, her heart pounding in her chest, rolled down her window and called out to the woman.
Hey, are you okay? You can't just stand in the middle of the road like that.
The woman slowly turned to face them, her hair parting to reveal a face twisted in anguish. Her eyes were empty voids, devoid of emotion, and her lips moved soundlessly.
This is giving me the creeps, Em. Let's just go.
But as Daniel tried to accelerate, the car's engine sputtered and died, leaving them stranded in the darkness.
What the hell? It was working perfectly fine a minute ago.
They were trapped, the woman standing in front of their immobile car. She began to move toward them, her steps slow and deliberate.
Lock the doors, Daniel. Lock them now.
Daniel fumbled to lock the doors, but as he did, the woman's pale hand reached out, her bony fingers clawing at the window. "Help me."
What do we do, Em? We can't stay here.
Her mind racing, Emily remembered seeing a small path leading into the woods just before they encountered the woman. Without a second thought, she unbuckled her seatbelt.
Follow me, Daniel. There's a path into the woods. We can't stay here.
They both climbed over to the passenger side and scrambled out of the car, just as the woman's hand broke through the window. Her fingers inches from Emily's face, they sprinted toward the woods, the branches scratching at their arms and face as they plunged into the darkness. Behind them, they could hear the woman's eerie wails echoing through the night. "Come back, help me." They ran deeper into the woods, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The moonlight filtered through the trees, casting eerie, elongated shadows that seemed to reach out for them.
We need to find help, Daniel. We can't let her catch us.
Agreed. Let's keep moving.
They continued through the woods, their panic and fear driving them forward. But no matter how far they ran, the woman's voice seemed to follow them, her cries growing louder and more desperate. "Please, help me." Finally, they stumbled upon a clearing in the woods, and there, in the center, was a decrepit, abandoned cabin. Its windows were shattered, and its wooden frame sagged under the weight of time.
We must hide there, Em. It's our only chance.
They pushed open the creaking door and entered the cabin. The interior was shrouded in darkness, and the air was thick with dust and decay. Cobwebs hung in the corners, and the floorboards creaked with every step. As they huddled in the dim light of the cabin, Emily and Daniel could still hear the woman's cries in the distance, but they had at least found temporary refuge.
What the hell is going on, Daniel? Who is that woman?
I don't know, Em, but we need to figure out a way to get out of here and get help.
They decided to wait in the cabin until morning, hoping that the woman would eventually give up her pursuit. The night seemed to stretch on endlessly, each minute feeling like an eternity. As the first light of dawn broke through the cabin's shattered windows, they ventured outside cautiously. The woods were silent, the woman's cries had faded into the distance.
I think she's gone, Em. We should go back to the car and see if we can get it started.
Reluctantly, they made their way back through the woods, the path now eerily quiet. When they reached the spot where they had left their car, they were met with a horrifying sight. The car was gone, as though it had never been there. The only evidence of its presence was the skid marks on the pavement where they had come to a screeching halt the night before.
Where's the car, Daniel? This doesn't make any sense.
I don't know, Em. It was right here.
They were stranded in the middle of nowhere with no car and no way to call for help. As they stood there, their minds racing with fear and confusion, they heard a familiar chilling sound, the distant wails of the woman. "Help me." They turned to see her standing at the edge of the road, her pale figure illuminated by the first rays of daylight. Her eyes were still empty voids, and her expression remained twisted in anguish.
What do you want from us?
"Help me." Despite their fear, Emily and Daniel couldn't bring themselves to abandon the woman. They approached her cautiously, their hearts heavy with dread.
We'll help you, but you have to tell us who you are and what's going on.
The woman's hair parted, revealing a face etched with pain and sorrow. "I made a pact, a terrible pact, to save the one I loved. But now I'm trapped, and I can't escape." As the woman spoke, the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place. She had made a pact, a desperate bargain that had gone wrong, and now she was bound by its consequences.
You made a pact with something, didn't you? And now it's after you.
Yes. I thought I could save him, but I was wrong. It wants me, and it won't stop until it claims me. Emily and Daniel knew they couldn't leave the woman to face her tormentor alone. They had to find a way to break the pact, to free her from whatever malevolent force pursued her.
We need to figure out how to help you, to undo the pact you made.
The woman pleaded. Please, you have to help me. I don't want to be a prisoner anymore. With a newfound sense of determination, the three of them set out on a quest to unravel the mystery of the woman's pact and find a way to break it. They delved into the darkest corners of the supernatural, seeking answers in ancient texts and consulting with experts in the occult. Days turned into weeks, and the woman's pursuer continued to haunt their every step. But they pressed on, driven by the hope of freeing her from the curse that bound her. Finally, after countless sleepless nights and tireless research, they discovered a ritual, a perilous one, that could potentially break the pact. It involved facing the entity head-on and confronting the truth of the woman's bargain.
We have to be prepared for anything, Em. This could be our only chance to end this nightmare.
As they prepared for the ritual, the woman revealed the horrifying details of her pact. She had sacrificed her soul to save the life of her beloved, sealing the deal with another worldly entity. I thought I could save him, but the entity only took his suffering and passed it on to me. It fed on my pain, and now it wants to consume me completely. The ritual required them to venture into a desolate, otherworldly realm, a place where the entity held dominion. Armed with their newfound knowledge and resolve, they entered the kingdom, guided by the woman's desperate plea for redemption. The entity manifested before them was a grotesque, ever-shifting monstrosity that defied description. It radiated malevolence and exuded an aura of dread. You dare to challenge me? You cannot break the pact.
We'll see about that. You took her soul, but you won't take her life.
The ritual was fraught with danger, a perilous dance with a malevolent force that sought to devour them all. They confronted the entity's true nature, forcing it to confront the consequences of its actions. In a climactic battle of wills, they shattered the entity's hold on the woman's soul, breaking the pact that had bound her for so long. The entity let out a deafening scream of agony and vanished into the darkness, its power waning. Thank you. Thank you both. As the woman's soul was freed from its torment, her once empty eyes filled with gratitude and emotion. The curse that had plagued her was finally broken, and she was no longer bound by the pact she had made.
You're free now. Go live your life without fear.
With a nod of gratitude, the woman disappeared, her spirit finally at peace. Emily and Daniel stood in the desolate realm, knowing that they had faced unimaginable horrors and prevailed. As they returned to the real world, they found themselves back on the deserted road where their journey had begun. The sun was setting on the horizon, casting long shadows that stretched toward the distant woods.
It's over, Daniel. We did it.
Yeah, we did. We faced our worst fears and came out stronger.
They walked hand in hand back to where their car had once been, but to their surprise, it was there, waiting for them as if it had never vanished. The engine roared to life, and they drove away from the dark road, leaving behind the horrors of the night. As they drove, Emily and Daniel couldn't help but feel that their love had been tested and strengthened by the night's events. They had faced the unknown together and emerged victorious, their bond deeper than ever before. But just as they were beginning to put the nightmare behind them, they noticed a faint glimmer in the rearview mirror. It was the same woman standing by the side of the road, her eyes no longer empty but filled with gratitude.
Do you see her, Daniel?
I do, Em. It's like she's saying thank you one last time.
As they continued to drive, the woman slowly faded into the distance, her figure becoming an ethereal wisp of light. It was a reminder that their encounter with the supernatural would forever be a part of their lives, a testament to the strength of their love and their ability to face the unknown together.